G'day guys and welcome to the Iron Empire. This time we get stuck into the 66 Cadillac. Alright guys, so this is Andy's 1966 Cadillac sedan Deville. She got this thing a couple of months ago and it is sick. It's a 4-door pillarless, it's running a 429 V8. It's got all the luxuries you expect of a Cadillac, like power windows, power seats, air conditioning, power steering. A little bit of that needs some work, but overall it's a pretty tidy rig. Alright guys, now first things first, we need to get stuck into a few mechanical things on this car. Get it sitting right before we can hit the road. Alrighty, so here we are, first morning with the Cadillac, and typically I'm working on it. The other side, we had to basically address a brake issue. This thing locks up hard, like literally you touch the brake and it is instantly skidding. So I had to get in behind the drums and assess what's wrong. Operationally, they look fine and the pads look pretty sweet, but both front wheel cylinders are leaking. So first things first, these things are coming out and I'm going to go down to PBR Australia, just down the road, and see if I can get some replaced and slowly work our way through the braking issue, because obviously we want this car to be safe because it's like a 2.5 ton of metal. Yep, standard. They're doing nothing. This should be just about perfect. Alright, so I've just got the front end of this, I think pretty much reassembled, all bar the shocks, which I've just got from the boys down at Auto 1 at Clovercrest. Eddie and the boys down there are really switched on. I had to match these up because obviously I'm not going to get 65 Cadillac shocks over the shelf. These were off of a like 89 or something Rodeo, which ironically are the same shocks that I'm running in my little Datsun in the back because they're a really short stroke. Just one little tip I'd say when doing stuff like this, anything really, is always get all of your parts and everything loosely bolted up before you start tightening things up, because these front ends can be particularly hard because you've got a sway bar running from one side to the other, so everything's under pressure. What I ended up doing was jacking the other side control arm up, which released a bit of pressure over this side. Got all the bushings and everything in place and just the bolt threaded on, and then the torsion rod all bolted up loosely and the ball joint bolted up, everything assembled before I started nipping everything up, and that way you're not fighting against all the parts that are then bolted up rock solid. Okay, so the last thing I've got to do on the front end of the driver's side of this car is just the shocker now. Aside from obviously the brakes, the wheel cylinders are getting rebuilt as we speak. So while I wait for that to happen, I'm getting the front low. And the shockers, as you can see here, that one's totally knackered because that's fully decompressed, won't come back out on its own. This one is at full stretch, and the only difference between these two shocks, the size is the same. That pin obviously runs all the way through really big, and this pin is short. So I'm going to smack that pin out and that pin out and put that in there, and then it should be right as rain. and on the other side. Alrighty, so I've hit a bit of a snag as usual. Gave this a few bashes, didn't want to come out as easy as I'd hoped. I have done this in the past, but sometimes it does drag the bush out with it, the rubber bush. So I've decided to leave that in there, run these as is with a spacer either side to make up the difference. The only downfall to that is that the load is not going to be spread across that whole width. It's going to be only concentrated here. So luckily that is a bigger diameter. I'm going to put a larger pin through the middle of it, or larger bolt, and use some these are old bushes out of like a HZ or something that we done up. I always keep stuff like this because they make really good spacers. It's nice thick walled, so I'm going to cut those down to make up the difference and use the larger bolt it through, and that should be plenty strong enough, high tensile, to support the weight of the front of this thing. Rodeo shocks installed. So I'm just under the rear of the Cadillac, and I was going to assess the rear springs, and the first thing I noticed is that it's got some aftermarket air shocks in it. This is the third car in 2 weeks that we have recently acquired that have air shocks with 0 air in them. It's not that hard to put a bit of air in the things. So each one of these cars, the XC, my green Fairlane, and now this Cadillac, drove like absolute garbage, and they've got 0 shock. So it's not that hard to put some air. This thing obviously had never been filled with air for a long time, because this little T-junction here was completely disassembled really. One side was fully off. So all I done was wind it back together, fill it with some air, and it's holding pressure. So I won't bother changing those because they might actually come in handy. Now I've just got to pull the wheel off and start assessing how to get to the back end. They are a monster. I've never seen anything so big. Correct height spring going in. These are easy to bag because they actually are coil around, and there are kits for them. The rear end of this car is the easiest car I've ever had to lower in my life. Literally drop the shocks, and the control arms are so long that the diff just swung down, the springs just popped straight out, no worries. Lop a coil or two, back in, and we're done. I didn't even take the other side wheel off. Didn't even bother. And we were all of 15 minutes, both sides, laughing. Alrighty, so the front brakes are all bled up. I didn't record any of that because no one wants to see me bleed brakes. Most frustrating job in the world. So now front wheel is going to go on. We're going to lower this car for the first time and see how it sits. Alright, so I've taken the Caddy for a bit of a test drive. I'm just out to go get some club reg on it right now. I literally just took it around the block before with Dad, and it is like a new car. It drives so much smoother. It handles actually really flat around bends. It's sitting so much better, and the brakes are sorted. I guess a combination of doing the wheel cylinders, and I took off a little bit of the brake pad, sort of gave it a bit more of a beveled edge so it doesn't grab as much. And the brakes are wicked now, so I'm super stoked. I will show you guys an overall of the car now that it's settled. It's a touch low in the front, so I'm a bit bummed about that. I cut a little bit much. It still drives really good, but it just doesn't sit quite level. It's a little bit low in the front, which I hate. So I'm gonna have to address that soon. But as for now, we're just gonna cruise this thing. So we've just pulled up at the Barossa Valley Chocolate Factory. Come for a bit of a cruise. There's a little bit of a Cadillac meet going on down there. Charlie brought out the rig here, and we're gonna have a bit of a look around. So this is Charlie's dad's XC. So what is it? Rally pack. Is that what it is?
GXL.
GXL.
Yeah.
It's been restored up at, was this restored at Parks?
Yeah, so Parks is Adam Pay Restorations. He's doing my HX, so he had this for a couple of years and did a pretty amazing job on it.
Yeah, it's ridiculously straight, so good. Factory 351, 4-speed car, aircon, power steering.
I don't think it is. It's not
Oh, it's not a matching numbers car?
No, so this is a straight 6.
Ah, right, yeah,
so
okay.
He bought, he just wanted to build something that he had, as a 21-year-old. He had
Yeah,
this
right.
exact same car. And yeah, so I think he's got, these are all his old, that's his old one there.
Yeah, right.
And that's the Mad Dog himself there. And he's got he had camo curtains in it, so that's why he's got those similar ones there. But this is, that's a 6-cylinder van that he bought, which is this one. And yeah, then that was a van he had for a bit, but it was, that was a factory V8 and 4-speed, but it was all bent and crashed, so he got rid of it. But
love that trim.
Yeah, and he bought this wagon for all its chrome.
Yeah, right.
And yeah, so this is all the I haven't even looked at these, but yeah, so this is all the photo work and everything.
Yeah, it's gone all out. It's
gone all out. So he had it put in running and driving, and then he drove it from Cairns to Parks like that with everything in the back.
Yeah, right.
And yeah, with the engine and then it was dropped off here at Parks, and and then they got into it for a couple of years. So the body was actually pretty good already, which was pretty rare. But yeah, Adam's detail is ridiculous, as I've found out through my build.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yes, this is the first real decent run Charlie's given it, and it's helped clear it up. It needs a little bit of a tweak from the boys down at Pablo Motors. They're going to give the engine a tune up and stuff. But yeah, she's pretty warm and it sounded really good when you pulled past. It sounded sick.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, I went out for a little bit.
Man, I love this trim, so sick. But anyway, we're gonna go in, check out this chocolate factory, and then yeah, maybe go get some lunch. guys, that will wrap up this episode of the Iron Empire. Hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to leave a comment below and let us know what you think of the big rig here. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you haven't noticed, I have some fresh headwear ready for winter. Some nice warm Iron Empire beanies for those who are interested. Please check out the online store, and I will see you all on an upcoming episode of the Iron Empire. Cheers, guys.